All right, welcome back to the Feronis podcast. My name is Justin Kubek,
I'm Rico Camacho.
and we're here with another show, of course. Before we get into things, though, I did want to kind of switch up the way we were doing things. Rico, I didn't preface this ahead of time. I don't know if you read through the
I'm
show
very
notes.
flexible.
Really?
Oh, God. Yeah, actually, I just got done doing speed and agility with my son this afternoon.
There you go. Awesome.
Morning.
Yes, it's just afternoon now.
Yep.
Anyway, before we get going, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really means a lot to us. It really makes an impact on the channel. And we used to end with these things, but we're going to start the episode with these things. First up is going to be the 988 Lifeline. Whether you're facing mental health struggles, emotional distress, alcohol or drug use concerns, or just need somebody to talk to, their caring counselors are here for you. You are not alone. Call, text, or chat anytime. And we have an event to feature this week.
The laughter yoga. I was trying to add in the goat yoga to see if we could get a double time, but it's okay. The laughter yoga. Laughter yoga is basically something that teaches anyone that they can laugh without relying on humor, jokes, or comedy. So it doesn't need to be prefaced with anything. Laughter is a unique laughing exercise routine which combines unconditional laughter with breathing exercises. Now I'm going to give the rest of this, but then I'm going to go into something in a minute. It goes July 7th from 2 to 3 p.m. at the Brookfield Public Library. You can call to register. Info is in the description. Now, what's interesting about this is they say laughter and smiling actually enhances the dopamine within your system, which actually increases the happy hormone. But it's not like a adrenaline rush where sometimes what happens is, and we're going to talk about this later too, but sometimes this is a good segue, dopamine actually increases, and then when you crash, you feel like you're depressed.
Right.
Laughter and in a yoga and breathing form actually prolongs that happiness for a while, which is huge.
And even, forced laughter. When I was reading a book called The Elevated Communicator, it talked about how, manufacturing artificial scenarios for yourself that are inherently positive have that effect. Whether you think it's hokey or made up or woo-woo stuff, it still works. It scientifically is backed at this point.
Right. And it's been scientifically backed for a while. So, I really encourage this. Looks like a great event. I would look at it. It'd probably teach you some other skills, which we're going to actually segue into as well. But other skills, when you're you don't always need to be depressed. You can just be sad for something, anything. And that it'll help. And that's okay to be sad. People, I think, forget that it's a good idea sometimes to just understand it. To be human means to be sad sometimes, and it's not a negative. So just acknowledge you're sad, and then you can do these type of things to go, oh, and then that sadness probably have taught you something by that point.
Well, and I'm sure I'm not going to get the quote exactly right, but it was Fred Rogers who said something along the lines of the sad times are important because without the sad times, we wouldn't know when the good times are.
Exactly. You need both ends. You need a balance in both ends of the spectrum.
So it's strange how those artificial kind of scenarios can impact us in such a meaningful way. And that segues great into our topic for today, and that's volunteering. Volunteering, on the surface level, impacts your community. We've spent some time out volunteering, handing out bags for collecting donations for Hunger Task Force. It's something very important to do, but what exactly does it do?
Well, and it's interesting because so I feel like, and this is going to be just my opinion, there's no scientific evidence behind anything I'm about to say, so this is just my opinion, is that we have this pop culture viewpoint of I need to work on myself. I need to be alone, whatever that may mean. Like, whoa. So, and it's interesting because I've been battling with this concept of what does it mean to be alone, but on the opposite end, we are social creatures. Like babies, they need their mother and father early on or they don't survive. You know what I mean? Especially their mother. So we have this idea where, I think sometimes people think spiritual awakening or just awakening or feeling better is, I'm going to be alone and feel the tree and the breeze, where we are actually social creatures, and it is important that we interact with people because the most wonderful dopamine rushes come from human interaction.
Something that I try to remind myself often is you don't get extra credit or a bonus for doing it by yourself or doing it on your own. Um, and in fact, when you ask others for help, it makes them feel good.
And not even just help though, but
Well,
simply just the human connection. Like, so for example, earlier on laughing, who do you generally laugh with? Somebody else. Yeah, you can laugh but when you're alone, maybe watching a program or,
there we go.
and we're back live.
We're back.
Okay. And so, um, how you interact with people, but when you interact with people, obviously punching somebody in the face is not a positive interaction, right? But when you're volunteering or doing things, not just to help serve somebody else, but it internalizes, especially when you don't expect an outcome or something back. You just do it because you're feeling good enough to give back to whoever it is, a community, a person, and don't do it for the perspective of some external force is going to make me give me a reward for doing this. The reward is yourself feeling good enough to do it for somebody else. And so with these volunteering opportunities, you know, do them when they give you some sort of inspiration. And again, this is just me talking, and how I've just gone to a place where, yes, sometimes it is okay to be by yourself and it's okay to internalize and be like, okay, I need some time alone. That's okay. However, there needs to be a balance, I feel, a balance between being alone and being with people, and how those interactions, because the best piece of advice I've ever heard once is every relationship is a mirror image of yourself. And that doesn't mean they're exactly like you, but let's say someone's making you angry. When you're angry, that tells you something, that you're attached to something, and there's something off within you. So how do you manage that anger? And what's even more interesting is this person is helping bring that out, especially with the people you get angry at, hate, or have those strong negative emotions. Those are the people that you're most attached to, even when you don't want to be.
Well, and to take that a step further in a more professional environment, if you're in management, be it retail or a restaurant or what have you, your opinions of your employees is typically a reflection of your ability to manage your
That's
employees.
brilliant. That's actually brilliant. Yeah.
Uh, and I mean, that's a whole episode in and of itself, but
Right.
it's just surface level. That's
That's how
unfortunately
it goes.
true.
Well, that's from a, but I'm talking about even from a parent or marriage
Yeah.
perspective. That's one reason we have so many divorces, in my opinion, is when you look at somebody and you married them, well, the course they're going to trigger you. It's not always the romance and holding, the Disney stuff. That's kind of the stuff that marriage, what makes it beautiful from my perspective, is that how you grow with somebody, because it's not always going to be fun and games. It's going to be, hey, we're arguing, hey, we're seeing something. And those are the moments you grow as a person the most.
If it was easy, it wouldn't be worth it.
Amen
It's
to
what
that.
I write on.
So, so going on to the volunteers, how do you interact with these people? And I'm going to take it a step further, is because when you're volunteering, sometimes you think you're helping them and they're in a lower perspective than you. But in reality, you're both equal. Everybody on this planet is equal from whatever perspective you want to see it. They're just going through something different than you. So when you're volunteering, how are you interacting with the people that you're volunteering for?
It's the idea that you treat the janitor with the same respect you would treat the CEO. It goes both ways, and it goes a long way too when you put that into practice.
And the janitor's more fun 90 times out of 100.
And let's not take away, probably.
Yeah.
Let's not take away from the surface level fact though. You are helping people.
Oh, absolutely.
You are allowed to feel
Absolutely.
good about that. One of the most important things or feelings I try to inspire in a volunteer is not to feel obligated to volunteer. Like nobody wants a volunteer that feels like they have to be there. We want a volunteer that feels like they want to be there.
Right. Yes.
And it really changes. It's, same idea about when you're talking on the phone with somebody. If you make a point to smile while you're talking, your tone of voice changes. Your, fluctuation in your pace of your speaking changes, and it makes a positive impact in your conversation.
Well, and I'm going to add to that too, because what's interesting about that concept is, yes, you do want someone to want to be there, but there are scenarios where people have to volunteer for, I hate to say this word, but it is what it is in our society, punishment purposes.
There's court-ordered volunteering.
And however, what can you do take your perspective. We talk a lot about perspective and belief systems. How can you change your belief system? All right, I have to be here for whatever the reason is. Well, you don't have to be there. You could ditch it, but then there's other consequences. Nice catch. Nice catch. I almost want that to stay on film. Bro.
Well, I might leave it in. It might happen if I can get it to sit again, but this wind keeps going.
Nice. It's a light wind too.
Yeah.
So anyway, just how do you take some things that aren't perceived to be enjoyable and make them enjoyable anyway? So back to volunteering.
Well, perception's a lot. I write about that quite a bit.
Well, yeah, perception is that's what builds your personality, is your perception and belief systems.
Right. Well, one of the other big impactful things that volunteering has on your community rather than yourself is strengthening the social bonds between one another. That sense of community that we feel at a local farmer's market, or in Waukesha, we're blessed enough to have Friday Night Live in the warm months. That festival atmosphere, I love it so much.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Um,
So, no, and there, I mean, you can volunteer, like you said, even on those fun things like Friday Night Live, or, or those festivals, or you can volunteer. It doesn't always have to be a soup kitchen or cleaning garbage or whatever, but there's always got to be there's always a different way and something you can find that you
There's
enjoy.
so many ways to give back.
Right.
I mean, when I was a kid, I used to spend time shelving books at the library through the Boy Scout program to get volunteer hours. And on that note, because I was interested in doing that, the library at the time, I think, had more volunteers than ever before from the
wow.
Boy Scouts, because I was interested in it and I brought my pack with me.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And you can have the same effect in the whole community when you're spending time volunteering. Your friends, your family will see you out there having fun, and they're going to want to too. And then suddenly everybody wants to, and we end up with the issue where we have too many volunteers and we have to turn people away. But that would only be
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah,
That's a good
problems.
problem to have. That's a good problem to have.
I'm sure you've inspired some people along the way in your political career. I mean, heck, we're doing this podcast partially because of you.
Yeah. I said, see, and now I'm tongue-tied 99 times out of 100. I'm not, but on that note, I mean, inspiration comes from when, like I said, I've been inspired to do something, and it's something positive, and it does. And yeah, in part, my political career has gone from a place of unifying a community. That is, in a nutshell, what I've been attempting to do, and I feel I've done a pretty good job so far, and bringing as many people together and helping solve conflicts, and, reminding people what it was like. Because even as a teacher, people always criticize, oh, when I was a kid, we didn't have these things and we weren't sitting on phones. And yes, to a degree it's true, but life evolved. Now, these things, as negative as they are, have a lot of positives to them. They do allow us to be more connected at times, and we're sitting here at Frame Park and there's some kids playing, and I don't know if there's as many kids here playing as they used to, but I feel as though bringing that community back together from even when I was a kid, and having the parks just completely full, being able to interact and meet people in a way, and moving away from the fear-based system, because I understand bad things have happened. So not bad, there's no bad and no good, but negative things have happened from a perspective of, kids and adults, and it can be, being cautious is never a bad thing. However, always understanding that most people are good.
Well,
Not most. All people are good. Somehow, somewhere along the way, something happened to get them to make a decision that is hurting themselves. So whenever somebody hurts somebody else, they're hurting themselves.
And even in that moment, they're the hero of their own story.
Yeah.
Everybody's the hero of their own story. And so when you look at somebody and they're doing something that you view as negative, try to look for their motivation behind it, because it's more than likely not rooted in malice.
Yes.
But it's rooted in their own self-interest, which isn't inherently selfish either. It's, we're all doing that on a daily basis.
Well, and right, and that's part of the inspiration, is learning that even those negative things can be inspirational. I mean, you look at Oprah. Let's go real pop culture. Oprah, she had one of the toughest lives you're going to have, and now the way she turned that into something that inspires the world, and for me, it's just my community. And what it means by that, that's why I've had a passion of coming back to teach in Waukesha. And so, I'm teaching at Catholic Memorial. It's not within the school district, but it's still in the city in which I love. And I think that inspiring people to give back, there's this, and I stopped myself because there's this really cool thing in grad school I saw. It was a TED Talk. And it was this one guy they said that inspiration is driven through what you do and what you say, but the key is how you help people feel as good as you do. Got it? And so with that, it was this guy, there was this music, right? And I swear to God, he was the worst dancer in the world, but oh my God, you could just see the smile. He was feeling the music. And next thing you know, he got 400 people to follow him. Didn't say a word, but smiled. Well, he did say words. He said hi. He, started to bring the community together. He was doing something fun and exciting and a passion of his. Even if it didn't look good, it still was good. So we all, and that goes into the validation of what others think. So there's, inspiring others is more about feelings than it is about anything else. Because you could be sitting still and create a feeling around somebody. You could be, doing anything. I mean, yes, actions play a role and words play a role. They're like different tools to help us inspire who it is we need to inspire, because we have no control over who we inspire. We can only do the best we can. Oh, we can only do the best we can with what we have. And I know I've said this before, but follow your passion to the best of your ability for as long as you can until you can't anymore. And then you move on to another one. And you just keep doing that until you really are just become an inspiration as to rather than being an inspiration.
Yeah.
And that's what volunteering is another tool to do that, because that's part of the action base. That's a tool to help.
Well, and that's something that I've attempted to do with Feronis too. My mission built into my company is to create products that in turn support the communities that they're sold in.
Right.
And I'd like to think we're doing a pretty good job at that, and moving forward with the podcast and the blog, and really trying to get this message out to as many people as possible.
And the other reason I jumped on, he inspired me because this is something that I've always wanted to do. I love that he started a business with mental health, especially emphasizing men's mental health. Because yes, I do believe that, we like we've talked about in previous episodes, men you're soft when you share emotions, and
Right.
you're not a manly man, and that becomes a problem. And then on the flip side, I've always heard people say, well, men should show their feelings more. So it's this double message that we've talked about that has been really difficult to overcome for so long.
That's another episode entirely, too.
Okay, that's another episode, but at least I introduced it. Okay?
Oh, no, absolutely. We talked a lot about how, causing other people to feel a certain way is kind of the idea behind inspiring people to do certain things. And inherently, as you're volunteering, that has an effect on you too, whether your intentions are to affect yourself or affect others. You do have that effect on yourself along the way.
Right.
If you're feeling lost, or you don't know what your days are bored when you're not working, but you don't want to be working, go volunteer. If you got free time, it's going to give you a sense of purpose. It's going to, make you feel good, where otherwise you'd be sitting around being bored or worse.
And it does, like, I love that it does it strengthen those social bonds like we talked about. And it's because we are social creatures. So, and I do think that COVID had a role, cell phones have a role. A lot of us, there's a lot of things that have gone on as we've evolved as a society that have caused us to believe that we don't need anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that just breeds more negative emotion, which I think at some point we'll all get out of. It'll happen at some point because, the world turns and we evolve constantly.
Right. Well, and that sense of community is infectious. It's difficult to be upset when you're at the state fair.
Yeah.
It's difficult to, not have
or
a good time.
Or even when you are upset, like you're sad or something, like you said, and it's like, I mean, there have been days, even me, I'm like, I do not feel like, I'm like, oh, but I scheduled this thing I got to go to, let me go. And then I'm like, oh, I feel better after I did it.
Right.
Because you got out, you had that human interaction. And so sometimes, it's gotten to the point where our feelings become numb and we're not even sure like how we feel because we don't know how good it feels to get out and do these type of things. And they're free. That's the other thing. Because some
Yeah.
people are like, oh my God, I need money to do this, and I want to travel the world, and that's going to give me the inspiration because if I travel and I go to the Grand Canyon or, the Hanging Gardens, that I will all of a sudden just understand life. Where sometimes it's as simple as let me go volunteer for free, and you just see life
Well, and
differently.
it's very much in the Western culture, right? The idea of, I'll be happy when.
Yes, love that. Love that.
It's not something that you can really achieve. It's a better way to talk about the idea that money doesn't buy happiness, right? Money doesn't buy happiness, but it is easier to cry in your Lambo than in your '94
And
Harley.
I'm gonna say no. It is not easier to cry in your Lambo because when you're Lambo, you sit in your Lambo and you're crying, and that still doesn't make you happy. Well, guess what? You get to a point. The reason I know this is I did go to Catholic Memorial. I had some friends that were very, very, very well off, and I'll be honest. At this point, I'm 40, so I guess I could say this. The amount of drugs and alcohol and depression that went through at the high school level, and I'm talking expensive stuff. I mean, you cry in your Lambo and then you sit back and go, wow, even a Lambo doesn't make me happy. Nothing will make me happy. And that's where you realize that internalization of happiness comes from me on how I perceive and believe what I have in front of me as opposed to what I don't.
And here I thought you were going to bring up the damage that would happen if I cried onto my Italian leather seats.
Oh, there's that too. I forgot about that. Yeah, but if you're that rich, you can just get new Italian
There
leather
we go.
seats. But I mean, and then you're like crying because you have Italian leather seats and you're still not happy. Which I'm not saying those experiences aren't fun. I mean, I've traveled to Italy, I've done many different things that have made me happy, but I'm not happier or less happy because I've done them.
Right.
As I've done more than most and less than others, just like everybody else. And sometimes, like he said, the janitor, mopping and sweeping has been more enjoyable than traveling the world for some people.
Well, when you look at some studies on neuroscience and the effects of stress on the brain, yeah, the money might not be worth it, in the
No,
long run.
no, I mean it is and it isn't. I just don't. I think we believe it will
Right.
or won't make it worth it when money's a thing. It's cool. It's not bad. It's not good. It just is. And how we handle that is truthfully how we see ourselves. Money is literally air at this point.
Right.
There's cash is barely given. It's a card or a phone, and you just beep, and some air transfers from one computer to the next. So if you just want air, it's all over the place. Yep. Now he's rich.
I don't know if that came in through the
Yeah,
mic
he's
because of
rich.
the windscreen.
No, he's rich now.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
With
So-
all of that said,
Yes,
we've gotten fairly off track,
we have.
and we are unfortunately kind of out of time for the episode.
Okay.
So we'll have to wrap things up. Thank you so
right.
much for being here.
Yes.
Thank you for taking the time to watch or listen, however you choose to enjoy the Furones podcast. If you haven't already, like and subscribe or rate us on whatever podcasting platform you like.
We'd love to hear your feedback, and if you guys want to hear stuff, please let us know.
Until next time.
Thanks.